Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alicia. Today we're going to be talking about some really popular thrillers that I've read over the last couple of weeks. And today I'm going to let you know if these thrillers thrilled me and if I think they're worth picking up. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video. I don't know, do I want to start off on a bad note or on a good note? It's fine. The first thriller that I want to talk to you about is Rock, Paper, Scissors, and this is by Alice Finlay. So Rock, Paper, Scissors is a dual point of view domestic thriller, and in it we're following a couple whose marriage isn't thriving. They end up winning a weekend getaway to this very deserted cabin out in the woods somewhere, and they both decide to go knowing that this weekend is going to determine how their marriage is going to continue. Will they go ahead and reignite that spark, or will their marriage end up in the grave along with maybe one or both of them? And so Adam and Amelia end up going to this cabin getaway, and right off the bat they realize that something is wrong, and Amelia thinks she saw someone that may be spying on them. Now this book is told from a dual POV. We get to follow Amelia, and then we also get to follow Adam. And we also have a third point of view written from Adam's wife, who writes letters to him every anniversary, but she never gives him these letters, and so we do get some insights into his wife's mind. So do I think this book is worth it? Personally, I would say no. To me, it was just all vibes. I personally really loved the atmosphere. I loved this isolated cabin setting. And I will also admit that I was pretty entertained all the way through. So if you're someone that wants a thriller just for entertainment and you don't really care about reasonable plot lines, then this might be for you. The setting was spectacular. Now, the reason that I say personally that I don't think it's worth it is because the plot twist relies on the reader being misled. There were several times in the book that details contradicted each other, and I'm someone that looks at the details. I want to try to solve this. I want to try to guess the twist. And if the author is lying to me, then of course I'm not going to be able to guess the twist because it doesn't make sense. 1 + 1 does not equal 3, Alice Finlay. So again, it was just all vibes. If you want to be entertained but don't really care about the details or things making sense, this is going to be the book for you. If you even care a little bit about cohesion and about the details not contradicting each other, then I would totally say to skip it. The next book on this list is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And oh my goodness, if we're talking about thrilling books, this is one that thrilled me right from the beginning. It was a book I couldn't put down. It was one where I was entertained the entire way through. I really enjoyed my reading experience of Razorblade Tears. It was fantastic. It was gritty. It was fast-paced. It was action-packed. It had everything that a really good thriller is supposed to have. And so if you don't know what Razorblade Tears is about, we follow Ike and Buddy Lee. These two fathers don't have anything in common besides that they're both ex-convicts and that both of their sons were just recently murdered. Now the police have just run out of leads and the case went cold, and this doesn't sit well with Ike and Buddy Lee, especially after the graves of their sons were vandalized. Now Ike and Buddy Lee are also dealing with a lot of regret because in life they didn't really truly accept their sons. They loved their sons, but they were dealing with their own homophobic views. And now that they're dead, they're not only looking for justice, but they're also looking for redemption. So these two unlikely characters team up in order to find out who is responsible for their son's death. And from here on out, it's a wild, action-packed ride all the way through. So do I think this book is worth the read? Yes. And, however, I do want to point out some issues that I personally had with the book. One of them is that it was very male-centric. There was a lot of testosterone in this book. The male characters were extremely well written, extremely fleshed out, very nuanced. I honestly don't know how S.A. Cosby did it because I found Ike, who is a racist character in this book, to be endearing. So if that is not good writing, then I don't know what to tell you because these characters were extremely well written. They were amazing. They were fantastic. Now, where it felt a little bit flat is that some of their female counterparts were not as well written, in my opinion, and even some of the terminology that is thrown around throughout several parts of the book was at times a tad bit misogynistic. The second thing that I did want to bring up is that the murder of their two gay sons is used as a plot device for these characters to gain redemption. And even though this is a tale about two grown dads learning to accept and love their sons for their truest selves, there could be room for discussion here around that. And I would love it if S.A. Cosby would also maybe write a thriller or a book through the lens of their sons, because they overcame so much adversity and they were thriving. They were a happy, biracial, gay couple who adopted a beautiful little girl and they were thriving, and I would love to see that on the pages as well. The next book on this list is The Other Black Girl, and this is by Sakia Dalila Harris. And this one is a little bit tricky to talk about without any spoilers, so I will do my best. So in this one, we are following Nella, who is an editorial assistant, and she is the only black girl in the office, as the title suggests. And she has been hard at work trying to get this major publishing house called Wagner to have more diversity and inclusion initiative, but she seems to not be heard or not be taken seriously. And so when she hears that there is another black girl named Hazel who is going to be hired, she is ecstatic. She's like, yes, finally, you know, we're gaining traction. This is a step in the right direction. And on top of that, Hazel seems to be very confident with who she is as a black woman, and she's not afraid to bring her authentic self to work, which is something that Nella has struggled with. She feels like she can't really be herself there. And so shortly after Hazel arrives, Nella starts to get these weird messages asking her to leave Wagner or else. And from there, the story takes off. We are following not only Nella and Hazel getting to know each other, but we're also following Nella trying to figure out who is leaving her these messages. The Other Black Girl is a book that I think is not going to be for everybody. The biggest pinpoint for this is that there is so much exposition. The first, I would say 60 to 65% of the book is very slow. We're getting a lot of background on Nella, on Hazel, and in the book we're also following another set of characters. I am being extremely vague here in case you haven't read it, and these characters do have a stake in the story plotline, but there is a question there of whether these perspectives were necessary to the overall development of the plot. Another thing that can be really off-putting is that Nella is not your most likable character. So is this book worth it? I honestly think it depends. This, in my opinion, would be a great book for a book club pick. And the reason that I say that is because you can read a couple of chapters at a time and then really discuss all of the details with someone. This is a book that you have to read slowly because the plot is very slow, and there's a lot of details in between that are incorporated in the book for a larger discussion or around scarcity of representation in white spaces and also subtle racism. So I really do think that this is a book that needs to be engaged with. That way you can go ahead and discuss with other people. Now, if you're someone who loves a thrilling, fast-paced, action-packed book like Razorblade Tears, this is not going to be for you because it's the complete opposite. So just keep that in mind. My dogs are barking at something. Oops. So the last book on this list that I want to talk to you about is Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by El Casimano. And really this book leans more towards comedy and mystery rather than a thriller, but it's one that I highly enjoyed. So in this one we're following Finlay, whose life just seems to be falling apart. She is divorced from her husband and he is trying to take custody of her kids. She is a total mess. She got an advance on a book she's supposed to write, but she's having writer's block. And if she doesn't come up with something soon, then that advance will be taken away, and it's not like she's already struggling to pay the bills that are stacking up on the table. On top of that, her husband just fired her nanny, and she really needed that extra support in order to finish said book. And so Finlay ends up meeting with her editor at a Panera that she was previously kicked out of for some events that happened before the start of the book, and some person overhears her talking about her plot to this thriller that she's writing or this suspense novel that she's writing, and she accidentally gets mistaken for a contract killer or a hit woman. And although Finlay is against murdering someone for money, she easily gets entwined into this plot and taken along for a very messy ride. So let's talk about what I really liked about this book. I genuinely like that it didn't try to take itself too seriously. It's a plot that is ludicrous. It is outrageous. You have to suspend your disbelief in a lot of different places, but that's what made it really fun. It was a book where I can just turn off my mind and read it and just have a lot of enjoyment. I just found myself giggling at a lot of points of the book because Finlay tries to do the right thing and things just don't end up turning out the way she wants them to or going in her favor. And I think that's something that we can all relate to when we want something to go a certain way and then it gets derailed and you're like, oh no, what do I do now? I also really loved a side character called Vero, that is her babysitter. She was just such a supportive character. She's like, yeah, you go, Finlay, and like, yeah, I believe in you. And I don't know, it was just really nice to read about a character who's so supportive and someone who would just do anything for you essentially. But Vero also had this very badass personality to her, which I really enjoyed. So do I think this book is worth it? I would say yes, but I do see it being a book that doesn't quite work for everybody because it is so outrageous and so outlandish. If you're looking for a thriller or a mystery book that is going to be spooky and a little bit eerie, this is not going to be the book for you. Even though Finlay Donovan is killing it, is action-packed, it's also very cozy. And even though we do have high stakes, it's not creepy or eerie or scary or anything like that. So if you do like mystery thrillers, but you don't like the like scary, eerie type of thriller, then this is definitely going to be the one for you. So that was it. Those are my personal takes on these books. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me. If you've made it this far, first of all, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave a stabby emotion down below for a thriller and let me know what is your favorite thriller. I would love to check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!